This is Inside Town Hall, a behind-the-scenes look at city government and the issues affecting you and your family.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Inside Town Hall. I'm your host, Madeline Shields. Coming up on the program, we have a whole host of topics to talk about, everything from the annexation meetings to boulevard gardens. We'll be meeting with City Councilor Teresa Stehly. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a moment.
30 seconds. It's the amount of time this public service announcement will last, and it's the amount of time on your commute that you may be slowed down in a cone zone. These city employees are working hard, and all they ask in return are two simple things.
Number one, stay alert.
Number two, slow down.
They all want to get home to their families too, and your patience is greatly appreciated. When you see amber flashing lights or orange traffic cones, stay alert and slow down.
We have a lot of topics to discuss on this episode of Inside Town Hall, and joining me is City Councilor Teresa Stehly. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, great to be here.
You have a lot of props today. We're going to start off with that. What are some of these signs that you're holding?
Well, first of all, I have this Citizens First little quotation here. And after having completed my first year in the City Council, I am more committed than ever to doing policies and ordinances that are going to put the citizens first. What I've realized, I had an awareness of this as a citizen, but having been in the inner workings of city government, I can tell you that about 99% of our ordinances are geared towards telling citizens what they're supposed to be doing, or mandating their behavior, or all sorts of things about citizens' responsibilities. I am about saying now, let's find some things that the city can do for our citizens, putting them first, because actually they're the ones who are propping up our city with tax revenues and property taxes. So this is what this is about today. These are things that are going to put citizens first.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of topics to talk about. One of them is the park board. You would like to see the park board meetings either videotaped or just the audio. Explain a little bit about, let's first talk about who's on the park board. What is the park board for folks
The
that
park
don't
board
know?
is a group of citizens that are appointed to the park board by the mayor, and they make decisions about our parks, about recreational aspects of our city. So they're important decisions. And for a long time now, Madeline, I have stated that I think we should have a representative on the park board from every district of our city, just like we do with the city council. We have a representative northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and central district. Why not have that same representation on the park board? This is something that I'm thinking will have to be put on the ballot as a charter revision issue. And I would love to have the council get behind this and say, let's let the citizens vote on it, or it maybe have to be implemented through a petition drive. But so that's one thing I have with the park board. The other thing is we came up with an ordinance this year. It was fabulous. Christine Erickson led the charge. We wanted to have the park board videotaped so that we can all watch their meetings. They hold their meetings during city council meetings, so we can't go. There was so much pushback that the mayor vetoed our efforts. 5 council members said, let's videotape it. He vetoed it. Interestingly enough, Madeline, we have now a citizen board called the Annexation Task Force, people who've come together to look at annexation. We also have the Redistricting Commission, a group of citizens. They're all videotaped. It hasn't been problematic at all for them. In fact, I've been at their meetings. It's wonderful dialogue. So I think I would like to see us revisit this, and I think there are other important boards that need to be videotaped as well.
So as this park board is a citizen board, how does someone serve on the park board?
Whenever there's a vacancy, then it's advertised and people will put in their application. And I have heard from people through the years that have wanted to be considered and they haven't been. Problematic thing for me is that most of the park board members live south of town. I think it's south of the 26th Street parameter. So I think we need more representation, like I said, in these other districts, so that the people over on Rice Street, if they wanted a little wading pool for their children, they could have that as part of the capital improvement plan. Right now, they don't have a voice. So that's an issue that I think is citizens first.
Do you think that as time goes on that those meetings will become more public, or and can citizens go to those meetings if they choose? Are they open to the public?
They certainly are open to the public, but the park board is constantly changing where they meet, so they're like a dodging, a movable target. It's even hard for us to find out where they're having their meetings. So it's about making it transparent and open for everybody.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Solar speed safety signs. What exactly is that?
Well, Annette, let me say that I think we have a problem in our community with driving. I also think we need more signs in general that tell us what the speed limit is, because one street will be 35, one street will be 30, then it changes to 25, and people coming into town, they're not sure, 41st Street, what is it, 40, 45? So having more signage would be fabulous. But the other thing I came up with last year, and I actually proposed this in the budget, and our Public Works Director said he was going to try it out, but I wanted to, these are speed safety signs, and I talked to the company, and for $40,000 we could get 10 of these signs. My proposal was that we would take these and use them in the high complaint areas where people are complaining about people speeding. I know one area is like Kiwanis, that heading towards 41st Street. People take that as a speedway. I also talked to the state about putting these in on 229, just so that people would be able to say, yeah, this is my speed. They can choose to speed if they want to, but sometimes people aren't aware of it. And this one actually isn't this. I was at a convention and they had this, but I think they're most effective when you have the flashing signage, and then on top you have what the speed limit is. So then you can say, yeah, I'm going 25. It is 25. Perfect.
There are some of those in the city, right? Like in school zones right now?
That's right. You'll see them. I know there's one over on Sycamore that I always find really effective in my driving. So these are solar powered, so there's no battery to mess with. They're movable. So we could put those in an area for 6 months and then take them to the next area. People could get on a list of saying we'd like to have these in our area. We do use the speed trailers. You might have seen those,
sure.
But they're very expensive and they're very hard to lug around, and they stick out into traffic. So to me, this is a wonderful thing that would help everybody out if we could do this. And this, I don't know that it would have to be an ordinance. I think a policy would, if I can get the Public Works Department on board, I think this could happen for our people.
Is there money in the budget for $40,000?
No, there's not. And last year I proposed that we take money from another department. This is how it is. This is a whole nother issue. But on the City Council, if we want to have any input into what's happening with the budget, we have to wait till it's proposed to us. By that time it's solidified like concrete, and then we have to chip away at some other department to get the money for something that we think is important. So I've heard people talk in the next mayor's race that there could be some movement towards allowing the City Council to be more involved as they're creating the budget. Because we're the ones who are actually talking to the citizens, so we know what the needs are out in the community. So that's that one.
Okay, we're going to move right along. Like I said, we have a lot of topics to talk about. Project Trim. Explain a little bit about what is Project Trim.
And let me say, excuse me, Project Trim has, I'm going to use a word, attacked my neighborhood 3 different times. I'm very much opposed to Project Trim, and I think a lot of citizens who've tasted it would agree with me. And the city comes by. What happened to me all times as a citizen is I got a letter from the city saying you have a tree that's in violation of our ordinance. And I called, when it first happened, I called them, I said, which tree is it? Can you help me out? Oh no, we can't do that. You go out with a tape measure in the middle of the road and a yardstick and measure for yourself. Be careful that a car doesn't hit you. That's what they said to me.
Is this a tree in your yard, or is this a tree
in the boulevard?
In the boulevard.
In the boulevard. So
okay.
But it could also be in your yard if it's hanging over the sidewalk. So we have a sidewalk, and I think it's like, I'm going to say 10 feet on the sidewalk and 12 to 15 feet on the street, depending on what type of a street it is. I believe Madeline, the city should be providing this service for us. And with the effort that they take to go out and survey trees, to mail out a notification, to come back to see if you did it right, to give you another notification, it's not, come back again. It's like a lot of Mickey Mousing around that I think all they'd have to do is come out and say, well, this branch is too high, snip it off and take it away. That is a service I think people want and deserve. The other thing that happens is that the city, when they mail this out, when they say you got a problem, they have a list of arborists that you can use. I've had neighbors who have used those arborists. They're supposed to know the specifications. One, I'll never forget, a 90-year-old neighbor, and these people are on fixed incomes. You get this letter from the city, you're terrified. It's like, oh, you know, I've done something wrong, I better get this fixed. Anyway, she hired the arborist, and who was listed and recommended by the city, and the city comes back and says they didn't do it right. And so then she has to hire them to come back again. She ended up saying, just take the tree down, just cut it down. People get very frustrated by this program. So I don't believe this is something that is putting citizens first. I think we do a lot of things with our tax dollars, and using our resources for this, I think, would be something we could absolutely do.
Would it cost more money, and would you have to hire more staff if the city did in fact go out and just say, okay, instead of measuring, instead of sending the letter, we're going to hire people just to go do that, cut the tree?
Well, and I
or
think
cut
we,
the
I
tree
think we
down?
could use city staff already, some people that we already have employed to do that for us. Maybe it would cost a little more money, but I think people would be open to that. We're spending money on all sorts of different projects, so it's called prioritizing this. So.
What's your next step? How do you get this changed?
Well, and once again, I'm not sure how much support there is. I know the newly elected council members last year were with me on this. I'm not sure where they're at with it. I'm concerned that this only may be implemented by a petition drive to let the citizens vote on it. Okay, so we'll see. That's yet to be had. This is kind of my wish list of things that I think would help citizens.
Okay, we have a performance audit topic. You support an independent performance audit of city finances. Explain what that means.
Well, and let me say that the public may be aware of this, but our sales tax growth is shrinking. We were projecting our budget on, I'm going to say approximately 4% growth, 4.9%. In our heyday, we had 7% growth. And you know, we've had a lot of prosperity in our community. We've been able to do lots of really cool things for our people, recreational things. So now it's down to 2.5%. I mean, it's way below what we needed, and so we've been told that cuts are coming. Okay, I have said for some time that I think we need to have an independent auditor come in and do performance audits on different departments. One of the departments that has concerned me for many years now is the water and sewer departments. We've raised our rates 100%. People notice that. We're paying a whole lot more for water and sewer. I want to support what we need, of course, but there's no oversight. And this isn't to say that our public works director isn't doing a good job, but we're hearing about the Gear Up program. You know, these things that happen statewide where there's no oversight and human nature can kick in, and who knows what happens. So just for due diligence and assurance of the public, I think we need an independent firm to come in and pull a curtain open and say, let's just make sure everything is being done as efficiently as possible.
Is that typical for other cities our size to have an independent audit done from an outside source?
I don't know. I haven't researched that, but I will tell you that I did research this last year, and we have a company that does a financial statement audit. That's what we do in our community, and that is basically me handing you my records, and you say, oh yeah, it looks good, and that's it. And we've had instances of fraud happening with our county. We've had it with our state, and I think we owe it to our citizens to tell them that everything is being handled as with as much integrity as possible.
You don't have any suspected
No,
that there is
no,
any wrongdoing
No,
going
but I
on?
think before I could ever vote for another water or sewer increase, this would have to happen. And I've had other previous council members agree with me that we need to do this. And we need to have someone independent, because I'm finding out that when you do business in Sioux Falls, whether you're a developer or handling audits, I mean, there's all these interconnected relationships. So it's hard for somebody to call somebody on the carpet about something. And I'm trying really hard on the council to be independent. I want to fulfill my campaign promises to these people that I'm going to do due diligence for them, 100% transparency. On the up and up, we want integrity in our government. And it's a hard decisions to make sometimes. And sometimes you vote alone when you're doing what you think is right.
Well, at this time, we're going to take a break. We are visiting with City Councilor Teresa Staley. When we come back, we're going to talk about a mixed-use parking ramp, and we have a lot of other topics to cover. We'll be back in just a moment.
The City of Sioux Falls has a powerful way you can turn this into this. The free sanitary landfill pass can help you get rid of clutter, improve the look of your home, reduce areas that mosquitoes breed in your yard, and help the environment. Load up your stuff, grab your free pass, tarp your load, and bring it to the landfill. It's that easy. Brought to you by the City of Sioux Falls Sanitary Landfill.
Welcome back to Inside Town Hall, where we are visiting with City Councilor Teresa Staley. Up next on our topics is the mixed-use parking ramp. It's a proposed parking ramp downtown, and I believe it's right behind, what, like Half-Baked, or where is it going to be?
It's east of this Copper Lounge collapse.
Okay.
So yeah, right east of that. Right now there's a flat space parking lot that has about 130 spaces that we're leasing out, city-owned.
And let's talk about this proposed parking ramp.
Yes, well, it's a proposed parking ramp, and realizing that we came on the council within the last year, I know they've been talking about parking downtown. I want the public to understand I certainly want adequate parking for all of our residents, but I'm also very concerned about protecting the taxpayer. And we have not voted on the council to approve this yet. It's preliminary schematic designs and bonding issues. But unfortunately, we just heard last Tuesday, they have spent between $300,000 and $400,000 already in preliminary work. My concern sometimes is we spend so much money before we actually vote on something that we are then told we're too far into this to back out, okay? And so I've been voting no on moving forward with this. I've got several concerns. One of them, Madeline, is that we don't know who the private investors are. This is a unique experience where we're going to be marrying the City of Sioux Falls with a private investor. And we deserve to know who we're doing business with, okay? And I have made 2 requests formally to know who the investors are. I've been assured that they're not city employees or spouses, but then I was told that they don't know who the investors are yet. So we can't be assured of anything. But I say if you have nothing to hide, then I think we need to be forthright with letting us know who we're doing business with.
So we're talking about a mixed-use parking ramp just east of where the Copper Lounge was. What all will be in this parking ramp? It's not just parking spaces. It's a 7-story structure. It has 4 levels of parking with parking underground. And could there be apartments? What is the proposed use?
Well, the proposed is that the city would put in anywhere from 400 to 520 parking spots. By the way, for a price tag of $18 million, this is one of the snags I'm finding with this thing. It's very costly per parking spot. And then it would be mixed, it would be wrapped around with some kind of private development, whether it's storefronts or maybe apartments. We don't know that yet. Mm-hmm. But the problems I had, as we talked about investors already, is also that who's going to do the maintenance on this building? Or let's just say that Legacy Development for some reason can't maintain it, then does it fall back on the taxpayers, on the citizens to keep this thing up? Also, there's a proposal to use a second penny for collateral on this. And as I mentioned before, the pennies aren't coming in like we thought they were going to. And so we're making cuts, and that second penny was supposed to be used for street maintenance, for tangible things like our streets. And so using that as a collateral on some kind of a parking, public parking facility is to me is at this point is a little bit reckless. Okay, so I can't support this thing. I think we need to step back. We need to go back to the drawing board and look at something that's going to be more reasonable right now with our climate the way it is.
And I think we'll hear more about this topic because it is still just proposed and it has not been approved by the City Council. If it is approved, it wouldn't start until fall or later.
Well, they want to get this thing done. I mean, we're working at breakneck speed, and that's one of the things that's concerning me is that this isn't like an emergency situation. So yeah, I think the public needs to stay in tune with what's happening with this, but there are questions that need to be answered.
Okay, let's move on to the annexation hearings. The city is looking at annexing several areas that are right now not part of the city limits. Explain a little bit about what your concern is.
Well, and we have over 62 pockets of areas out in the rural subdivisions that the city has gradually grown around. And this isn't necessarily development area, it's farm fields that have been annexed foreseeing some kind of development happening. So we had a test case come through where this guy was, they were going to annex him south on Sycamore. He didn't get the proper notification. I mean, the whole thing just fell apart. And the council said, we're not going there. So then they formed this annexation task force. And I was concerned when that got formed that these residents weren't going to be, I wanted the city to mail notifications out to say to these homeowners, this task force is starting. You know, you need to be aware of this. And I was told by the city they couldn't afford to mail this out. So I had a flyer printed at my own expense. I went out to these neighborhoods and alerted people that they needed to come to these meetings. And they've been coming. And the task force is listening. And at the end of the day, there's going to be a better product because we have citizen input on this. But a lot of these places, they're lovely little areas. And we have remnants of those in town with Old Orchard Heights, Norton Frolic area, La Mesa Drive. If you go in there, there are no curb and gutters. They don't have street lights in some instances, no sidewalks. They've been allowed to preserve their rural feeling. And I think that's one of the things that has been contentious with these people is that if we take them in and then we put an assessment on them to put those things in, they could be facing $50,000 to $80,000 on their home, in addition to raising property taxes. So I just don't want to do anything that's going to hurt any resident.
And there is information on the task force meetings. You can go online to siouxfalls.org/annexation, and there's information on when the meeting times are, and I believe there are videos that broadcast those meetings.
Yes, they've been videoed, that's right.
Okay, well, let's move on to something a little lighter. You have some beautiful flowers here.
Yes.
Let's talk about the Boulevard Gardens.
And the Boulevard, I just want the citizens to know that we have a new ordinance in place, and the Public Works Department has a lovely brochure if you wanted to stop in and pick this up. It tells you about plants that would be appropriate for the Boulevard area. These are all spring flowering. I got tulips in here. Actually, they're all tulips, and a little nepeta. This is all for my Boulevard garden. So we're hoping that people are going to be delving into creating some beauty in that space. And I will tell you from experience that planting things along the curb is fabulous. I plant all sorts of perennials. They die back, they get pulverized by sand and chemicals from the snow plows, and they come back the next year. Much more effectively than any grass did. So I'm hoping that people will take advantage of this. And again, if you wanted to stop down to the Public Works Department, I know they have these brochures. I've been also giving these out anytime I go out to speak to groups.
And we just have, quickly, we have one more topic we wanted to talk about, and that is the Neighborhood Watch program. This has been going on a long time, but I think it's finding some new energy.
Well, and of course, as our city grows, it's so important that we are able to connect to our neighbors and know who's living next door to us. I've been a big advocate for this for the last 15 years. I've been a captain of my Neighborhood Watch. I've been giving out these little flyers every time I go out and speak to people, but I would encourage anyone, if you're interested, call the police department. They have a brochure and a package that they give out, and you can get informed about how you can start a Neighborhood Watch.
Okay, well, great. Well, that is our time. If anyone wants to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you?
They can call the city clerk's office, or they can call me directly, 929-8783. Our information is all listed on the website, siouxfalls.org.
That's right. And if you want any more information on any of the topics that we talked about today, go to siouxfalls.org. That's our time. Thanks for watching.